Good afternoon. Welcome back into RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. You might have seen that today at 2 o'clock Eastern, there's a White House press conference. Karoline Leavitt, of course, will be holding that at 2 o'clock. We'll bring that to you as soon as we see it start right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, monitoring a lot of stories out there, as many of you are as well. But thanks so much for choosing Right Side, whether you're watching live or on replay right now, again, on this Tuesday, March 10th. Let's go to an update from the Department of War. There was a press conference this morning at about 8 in the morning. So let's go to clip one.
As President Trump declared yesterday, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Where we are is in a very strong place, giving the President of the United States maximum options. And from the beginning, from this podium, we haven't stated how long it will take. Our will is endless. Ultimately, the President gets to determine the end state of those objectives, right? But what he's said continually, and I want the American people to understand, is this is not endless. It's not protracted. We're not allowing mission creep. The President has set a very specific mission to accomplish. And our job is to unrelentingly deliver that. Now, he gets to control the throttle. He's the one deciding, he's the one elected on behalf of the American people when we're achieving those particular objectives. And so it's not for me to posit whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end. That's his, and he'll continue to communicate that. What we serve him as is we give him updates on a daily basis of exactly where we are so he can make that determination on the throttle.
Since our last update, CENTCOM continues to make progress across the southern flank. To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability. And of course, alongside our regional partners along the southern flank, continue to execute intercepts against one-way attack drones using fighters and attack helicopters. Our strikes mean we've made significant progress in reducing the number of missile and drone attacks out of Iran. Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward, 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the beginning of the operation. A testament to our air defenders and our air defense systems, and as I said, our partners in the region continue to do great work as well. Second, we're making substantial progress towards destroying the Navy. In the first 10 days of the conflict, we're more than 50 Iranian naval ships into the campaign using a combination of artillery, fighters, bombers, and sea-launched missiles. As Admiral Cooper noted last Thursday, we struck and sank an Iranian drone carrier ship, and U.S. CENTCOM continues today to hunt and strike mine-laying vessels and mine storage facilities. This work will continue. Third, against our objectives, we've begun to target Iran's military and industrial complex, again, focusing on centers of gravity to get upstream of the shooters out in the field in order to deny them the ability to continue to generate those one-way attack drones. Last night, as the news has been reporting, we honored the return of Staff Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of the U.S. Army's 1st Space Brigade from Fort Carson, Colorado. When I met Ben's family last night, his mom, his dad, and his sister, they showed me a drawing that Ben had made when he was in kindergarten. It was clear all the way back then that Ben wanted to do one thing in his life, and he wanted to serve his country and be a soldier. And to the Penningtons, just know how Ben was absolutely a great one. And finally, Major Sorfleet Davies, who returned home this weekend after sadly passing away from a medical condition while on duty in Kuwait. We welcome him home as well and mourn with his family. To the families and the families of all of our fallen, we share in your profound grief. The Joint Force remains eternally grateful for your sacrifice and the gift of a great example that your service members have given all of us. I want you to know that their names will never be forgotten, and you and your family are part of our Joint Force family forever.
All right, so from the Department of War, latest press conference for Operation Epic Fury, and you saw there was a graphic there that Mr. Kane posted or showed at that press conference. I believe we have that as well, but it's a map of the first 10 days of Operation Epic Fury, and you'll see so many strikes, of course, done in the Iranian state. So what we know is, of course, as you see there on the right side of your screen, that this is day 10, and we are monitoring the latest. Of course, President Trump speaking about it yesterday, basically saying that the war will stop once there is that surrender, or on top of that, no nuclear weapons created for a very long time. So once they have that intel, the war will stop. And then that's exactly what we saw and heard from President Trump just yesterday. So surgical strikes, a lot going on there. We're monitoring that situation. We'll replay some of that a little bit later in the broadcast for those of you that will be joining us in a little bit. But in the meantime, as we get ready to gear up to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue at about 2 o'clock Eastern time, why don't we do that right now, actually? Let's go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where we caught up with White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson. And joining us now is White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be chatting with you today.
Same to you. Let's talk about one thing that a lot of people are talking about, the originally called the SAVE Act. Now, of course, President Trump so rightly coining it the Save America Act. Could you talk to us about how the White House is looking at this right now?
Absolutely. I think the Save America Act is so aptly named because that's really what this legislation will do. It will save our country. And the President of the United States has laid out some critical items he wants included in this. It includes no mass mail-in voting. It includes voter ID when you cast your ballot, something that is so common sense that the vast majority of Americans, including Democrats, support. It includes proving your citizenship when you register to vote. And it also includes some other common sense proposals that, again, the vast majority of the American people support. No men and women's sports and no transgender mutilation surgeries for children.
And then on top of that, the photo ID. So, I mean, it looks like we have the Save America Act that has been added to when it comes to election integrity and a number of other great things that the American people want to see happen. So this is turning into a very big piece of legislation. Let's talk about what President Trump was talking about earlier in the week about other countries having voter ID and our country not having such a thing. I mean, what are your thoughts about the fact that other nations are doing this? We should be right there with them too.
Yeah, and I mean, forget about what other nations are doing. Let's look at the opinions of the American people. Like I said, this is something that is supported by the vast majority of the American people. I mean, think 80–90% of Americans back these common sense measures to keep our elections safe and secure. And again, Democrat voters also support these common sense measures. The only people who are standing in the way of getting this across the finish line and who don't support these common sense measures are Democrat politicians. And the president has correctly asked the question, why don't Democrats want to ensure that only Americans vote in American elections?
Exactly, and a lot of people are asking that question. Same with when we look and shift to sanctuary cities. A lot of the large cities out there would say they are a sanctuary city, but it looks like DHS, when it comes to the funding and the operation of mass deportations, it just still has to keep going in order to minimize criminal illegal aliens in the sanctuary cities. Is that pretty much the solution to that problem?
Yes, and the president was elected based on his promise to carry out the largest mass deportation operation of criminal illegal aliens. Despite the Democrats' resistance, he is carrying that out in full force. We have deported countless terrible, dangerous criminal illegals convicted of heinous crimes, murder, rape, assault, trafficking. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the same year that the president has carried out this mass deportation operation, you're seeing crime rates in the United States drop across the board. We have the lowest crime rate in over 125 years, and that includes dropping crime rates, with things like murder, assault, all of that. Like I said, it's not a coincidence that at the same time we're deporting these violent criminal illegal aliens, American cities are getting safer.
Exactly. And now under the leadership of Mark Wayne Mullen over there at DHS, let's talk about DHS a little bit more with this partial government shutdown thanks to the Democrats as well. This is not something you mess with, right? You're talking Department of Homeland Security and the Transportation Security Administration with flights. This is getting ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting crazy. And it just goes to show you that the Democrats' priorities are all out of whack. They are more concerned with scoring points with their radical left base than they are with keeping the country safe and with ensuring that Americans who are relying on airports and transportation every single day are having a smooth process. I'm sure you've seen the news over the weekend. There have been massive TSA security lines at airports, think 3-4 hours. And this is a pain that the American people are having to endure because the Democrats have decided to shut down the department. And that's not even to mention the Americans who are going without paychecks, the TSA officers who are missing pay because, once again, of the Democrats' decision to keep the Department of Homeland Security shuttered.
And it looks like, according to a White House press release earlier this week, about 100,000 people not getting paid. These are people that are paid to secure the nation, and that is not something you mess with, and the Democrats, of course, have been doing that. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, so we'll be talking a lot more about all the stories you just heard there and more coming up here on this broadcast. We're getting ready, of course, to see Karoline Leavitt as well, the press secretary at the White House, at the top of the next hour at 2 o'clock Eastern. We have a number of live interviews and interviews to get to in the meantime, but let's go to some of our great sponsors. Without our awesome sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here at the network. And they're all great patriots, you know what I mean? So we're past all the new year, new me stuff. This is the part where we either forget about it or we make it easy enough that we actually follow through. So that's where Cove Pure comes in. Here's the thing. Most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, trying a new diet or workout, but then completely forgetting and ignoring the most important thing, water. Even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And then when you think about all the garbage that's in the water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. So Cove Pure, of course, changes that immediately. Their ClearWave technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, pretty much anything that isn't water. So PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get. And what's really amazing about Cove Pure is it also lets you choose that temperature of your water. So hot, cold, and warm with just a touch of the button there. So it's pretty cool stuff. Instead of getting the big overload and overhaul, make one small upgrade that adds up every single day. Clean water right now. You can get $250 off for a limited time if you use that link there, covepure.com/RSBN. That's covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure. Cove Pure, great sponsor, great product as well. Same thing with Rumble Wallet, because you may have been seeing these conversations out there. Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms are controlling narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. So we need to fight back in this information and financial arena, and we can with Rumble Wallet, because Rumble is one of the only companies out there that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. One side of the coin, Rumble is challenging the big tech censorship. But on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. Banks can cancel and also freeze our accounts and our cards. So that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that no one can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us and others without any middleman taking the cuts. So with Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours and only yours. Yours to protect your future and family. So you can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. So it's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators as well by easily tipping us with a click of a button. So support our show and others out there. Just go to wallet.rumble.com. You can download Rumble Wallet today. You can open an account, step away from the big banks for good, wallet.rumble.com, or you can search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. Also, speaking of Rumble, Right Side Broadcasting Network, of course, is proud to partner with our friends at Rumble, the preferred platform of Right Side Broadcasting Network. You can watch all of our broadcasts here on Rumble, those of you watching on Rumble. Just download that Rumble app and follow RSBN. Of course, we're also live right now on YouTube and Facebook and across all of our platforms. So wherever you're watching, we're glad you're here, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, we're going to dive into something here that is, when you hear the words Sharia law, you wonder, well, what exactly is that specifically? So there's been a lot of talk about it, where it's trying to spread or what it means. So we dive into everything Sharia law with an Iranian-born Muslim who converted to Christianity. Let's go to that interview right now. Joining us now is pastor and host of TBN's Najat TV, Reza Safa. Thank you again, sir, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So last time you were on, we learned that you are an Iranian-born Christian convert from Islam. So it was great to talk with you on the network just about our faith in Jesus. But also, we hear this Sharia law being thrown around in other countries. And can we just dive into that, since obviously you were a Muslim, but also a Shiite Muslim, right?
Right.
Okay, can you dive into what Sharia law
Sure.
is? What does Sharia mean? What is this?
The Sharia means the path of Islam. It is based on the law of the Islamic State or Islamic faith. So when you talk about a state, an Islamic State is not just a political state, but it's an ideological state. So in Iran, for instance, when 1979, when the Islamic Revolution took place, they changed every aspect of that society, and everything was based upon two things. Number one, the Quranic law, what the Quran commands a Muslim to obey, and number two, the traditions of Muhammad, known as Hadith. Hadith is what Muhammad said and what he did. So if we go back to the life of Muhammad in the 7th century, for instance, there is a book it's called The Life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq, one of the renowned Islamic scholar. And so they go back to the traditions of Muhammad, and there are millions of hadith. It all depends on what branch of Islam are we talking about. We're talking about 4 different Islamic groups. 2 of major one are Sunni and Shia, and each of them have their own hadith about Muhammad, their own traditional sayings about Muhammad. Anyhow, so they are based on what Muhammad did and the Quran, the law of Islam, and what Muhammad performed in the 7th century. For instance, a person who, like me, converts away from Islam, that person is called murtad, or an infidel, and someone that has to be killed. So in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, my punishment is death penalty. Saudi Arabia, they behead me. In Iran, they probably will hang me. And so, and then you have many rules. A woman, for instance, testimony is half of the value of a man. So 2 women equal to 1 man. In inheritance, for instance, a male child will receive twice as a female child, and so on. So it's based on the tradition of Muhammad and the Quranic verses.
That's so wild to hear some of the details there. And, a lot of people, again, they hear the words Sharia law and they just know, you have to do everything Islam says or you die or you get some sort of penalty. Let's talk about some of the things that Muhammad did in the book of the Quran. I mean, what do you know that he did then that Muslims that follow Sharia have to do now?
Well, for instance, in Iran, a woman has to be covered, and that is the Islamic rule. In Iran, they had a division within the security apparatuses that just observed people's dresses, especially women's dresses in the public. So they would have buses throughout the whole city. And these buses, if you, for instance, a woman came out and you were like, your hair was visible, then they would take you to the bus, they would arrest you, take you inside and flag you and whip you, 60, 90 lashes. The same with male, if they were not dressed properly based on the Islamic code of dresses. And so it's an incredibly oppressed system. Going back, for instance, Taliban, I saw a video of a Taliban shop. This is during the first rule of Taliban in Afghanistan. And the guy had, he showed his store was full of blood. Blood were everywhere. And he had one of these, like a butcher stand. And he said, I have cut 90 hands. So based on Islam, if you steal with the same hand that you have stolen, that hand must be cut off. So going back to the tradition of Muhammad, in that book, in the life of Muhammad, they brought a woman to him, to Muhammad, and she had stolen something. They said, cut the same hand that stole. Then they brought her back again. Muhammad commanded the second hand to be cut off. Then they brought her back again, and they cut both her legs off. So we're talking about a demonic system. Sharia law is a demonic system. Honor killing that is happening today in Great Britain because of they have Sharia courts. So it's an awful thing, and now they're trying to come to various places in New York, in Texas. There's a big fight about Sharia law right now, and so Sharia courts. It's like I said, it's a demonic system of belief.
A lot of people are seeing that, hearing that, know that, and are appalled by that. Let's also talk about the fact of the country of Nigeria. Let's just focus on that one because we know this happens in other countries too. But is it factions of Muslims that are killing each other? And then on top of that, is it another situation where Christians are getting killed as well? Because back in the day with Muhammad, and then now people are basically practicing submit to Allah or die. Is that not what's really going on?
Well, it all depends on the school of thought, the school of belief that they have, because there are a variety of school of belief. For instance, what in Afghanistan the Taliban believe, it's contrary to what the Shia Islam in Iran believe. As a matter of fact, the Sunni Islam, which is about 60 to 80% of the all Islamic population, they consider Shiite a murtad. They consider Shiite an infidel, although they're Muslim. So that's why when you go back to the 7th century Islam, there was a great battle and war between these factions, the Caliphate of Islam, the leaders of the Islamic community after Muhammad's death. And so you have 4 of them. And so there were a division among them and a big killing, the month of Muharram, that took place, beheading of so many of them that still people in Iran mourn for them. Go in the streets, I used to do that, beat themselves with chains. I used to beat myself with chain every night in a procession of mourning for dead imams massacred at the hand of other Muslims. And so a Sunni Muslim, for instance, believe if a Shiite Muslim is killed, they would inherit heaven and vice versa. So what they practice in Iran may not be exactly what they practice in Saudi Arabia or in Nigeria or in Afghanistan. So it all depends on what school of belief do they come from and how entrenched are they in that system of belief.
For people that were born into the religion, let's talk about people here in this country born into that religion, but they don't practice Sharia law. They don't do these criminal acts. So the people that are not practicing that, they still want freedom as well. You know, it's a weird situation, isn't it?
That's what we are facing in Iran. We are facing in Iran a population of 90 million people, 80% of which do not believe in Islam anymore and do not want to practice it. For instance, during the month of Ramadan in Iran, it's forbidden to eat and drink in public because it's the fasting month. So you, even though you're not a practicing Muslim, whoever you are, you may be Armenian or you may be Assyrian, and you don't believe in the Islamic law, you're a Christian, you are not allowed to eat and drink in public places. Now, it's interesting, this month, that is month of Ramadan in Iran, people are eating and drinking beyond the measure in the streets because they're revolting against the Islamic faith. And so, but in other countries, like in Saudi Arabia, it's punishable. They will arrest you and they will flog you. And so, you are forced to obey the Islamic rule because within Islam, you have two houses. You have those who are believers and those who are infidels. And the infidels, like for instance, Armenians and Assyrians, Christian, those who are born into Christian faith, they have to pay jizya. They have to pay a tax, I call it blood tax, for them to have the privileges of living in an Islamic state, although they're not Muslims. They're allowed. They were allowed, although many of them left in Iran because life gets so harder and harder. They close down their churches, their assemblies, their schools, and so on and so forth. And so people start leaving. And by the time, like Muhammad, by the time that of his death, there was not a single Christian or Jew in that Arabian Peninsula. So it's very difficult for a non-Muslim to exist in a society led by Sharia law.
And my last question is, when I was on the campaign trail as President Trump toured various states, of course, in 2023, 24, there was a couple times where I saw a sign, I think it was in New Hampshire, it said Muslims for Trump. And so my point, what I'm trying to say is, I'm a born-again Christian. I believe in Jesus, but I'm also in this country that has people that believe other things. So when it comes to that, it's a difficult situation because we know if you're an extremist Muslim, then there's Sharia law and there's all this stuff going on. But if you're someone that's a practicing so-called peaceful Muslim that wants everything that anybody else wants in this country, what would you say to people watching? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I'm figuring it out myself as I go, but I understand we are a nation that has a lot of different faiths. I know we were all brought up, most of us, the Judeo-Christian, belief system, the Old Testament, the New Testament, America, all day. But your thoughts about that for the people that are born into maybe not the Sharia law style of a Muslim, but someone that's brought up in that faith in this country. Your thoughts?
You will find that in any religion. We're having Christians, nominal Christians, that they go to church twice a year and they don't practice what is written. They don't read the Bible. They don't pray. They don't go to church. And so the same with the Muslims. My family, for instance, my dad was a Muslim scholar. So we were forced to obey the Islamic law. When I came to America as a radical Muslim, life was very difficult for me here. Everything I faced in the streets was contrary to my belief. That's why when revolution took place, I went back to be involved. So for a nominal Muslim, I guess they don't care about how the society looks like and how people react. But for a radical Muslim, someone who adheres to the Islamic law, the life in America is extremely difficult. And we know this psychological system within every human being, that if they cannot put up with the system around them, they have to change the system around them. And so that's why they are forcing now in various states. For instance, in Texas, we have over 2,000 Islamic centers and mosques. So these Muslims want to provide or create an environment where the Islamic law and rule is, to their extension, is practiced. And that's natural. That's natural for every human being. That's why you go to Chinatown, all you eat is Chinese food and Chinese traditions. You go to, Persian Square in Beverly Hills, all Persians, that's Persian food and Persian traditions. And so you go to an area like in Michigan or Ann Arbor where they're a majority of Muslim. Of course, they're gonna elect a Islamic mayor and practice the Islamic rule and establish the Sharia courts. So natural.
And we're seeing a number of great patriots in this country standing up to Sharia law and making sure something like that is not ever the law of any land called the United States of America. And I'm sure there's other countries, there's so many other countries that are saying the same thing. All right, so for those of you just joining us, again, this is the pastor and host of TBN's Najat TV. This is Reza Safa. He's an Iranian-born Christian convert from Islam. So he's a Christian now, converted from Islam. Sir, again, thank you for the explanation, the deep dive on this, and we look forward to having you back on as we continue to cover a lot of stories out there, including in the Middle East.
Appreciate that. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you. And what does Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville have to say about all of this? We'll have that interview coming up in about 15 minutes. Before we get to our next interview on the West Coast in Arizona, let's go to some of our sponsors, including angelpace.com in Texas. A lot going on there. Alabama, Texas, Arizona. Thanks so much for watching, by the way, everybody out there, as we are awaiting that press conference at 2 o'clock with Karoline Leavitt. Angelpace.com out of Spring, Texas. Use the RSBN promo code. You get 10% off at checkout. A lot of different products that you can check out on angelpace.com. They hire veterans. Been a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network with some great sponsors and great products as well. Let's also move to All Family Pharmacy. Ivermectin, back in the news, back in the headlines. The National Cancer Institute has actually launched early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. Now, this isn't a treatment recommendation, it's early stage research, but it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are being studied by major institutions. And for many Americans, that raises an important question about access. So you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin, antibiotics, mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine. How about NAD Plus or other prescriptions out there? All Family Pharmacy is the place to get this. And the process with them is simple. You go online, you complete a short medical form, and a licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. So they believe Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that possible. So just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Again, use that RSBN 10 promo code, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's 1:03 Eastern Time, Tuesday, March 10th. As you see there, Arizona has a ton of great patriots in it. Unfortunately, there are people that don't want the best for the Grand Canyon State. And of course, the United States as a whole. Enter Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs. There is that For Charlie custom license plate in Arizona that has been vetoed by Hobbs. They have a ton of other custom license plates. So joining us now, as you see on your screen, is Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman. Jake, man, let's get this done for Charlie. How can they do this?
Well, you know, Katie Hobbs has been grotesque in her partisanship since she was elected, right? Everything she does is driven by a far-left extremist agenda. And the reality is that Charlie was a uniting figure. Charlie was a civil rights leader. He was a defender of free speech. I mean, he went to college campuses, like the place where he was assassinated, to engage with people he disagreed with and have civil discussions on the issues that face our country. There's no one more that we should be honoring. I mean, this is a guy that we filled 2 professional sports stadiums for when we held his memorial here in Arizona. I cannot believe that Katie Hobbs is so jaded and so partisan that she would veto a bill to voluntarily allow people to choose to honor his legacy.
And if anybody goes to the Arizona DMV website, you can scroll through, check out all of these custom license plates, and all of them, a lot of them, good causes and all of that. But Arizona, For Charlie, that should be an option for the people to put on their stinking car. And what we have is Katie Hobbs, who should be Carrie Lake in the office there. Let's just go there for a second. So your thoughts again. I mean, we know that's appalling to see that. But moving forward, tell us what it's like right now in Arizona. I know there's a lot of great patriots there in the Grand Canyon State. They're probably fed up with Hobbs.
They are. You know, look, we're going to get Andy Biggs, Congressman Andy Biggs, elected as our next governor come November. And, you know, that's an important thing. But look, right now, what I want to talk about is the reality of the situation. Charlie built an incredible organization. There are thousands of grassroots activists on the ground right now who are helping engage with voters, register voters. Those are incredibly important activities. And in terms of this legislation, look, remind you, you know, the left is trying to spin a narrative that somehow there were taxpayer dollars involved in this. There were zero taxpayer dollars involved in this. We have, you know, license plates for pro-life. We have license plates for Alliance Defending Freedom, a great organization that defends American civil liberties. I mean, look, to have a license plate honoring Charlie Kirk and his legacy when he built such an incredible organization that from, you know, South Korea to London after he was assassinated, there were these spontaneous uprisings, celebrations of life, and prayer vigils. You know, when the left has violence, you know, that touches them, you know, take George Floyd, for example. You see riots in the street. They burn down cities in response. When violence touches the right, a heinous assassination in broad daylight, like what happened to Charlie, you see prayers. Right? You see families coming together. You see people reading their Bibles again, going back to church, and you see people come together. That is the legacy that the Arizona Senate wanted to honor, and that is the legacy that look, we're going to continue to push for here in Arizona.
I was just looking down at my phone because it was exactly 6 months ago today, half a year ago today, September 10th, when we saw what happened there in Utah. And to your point, we saw the global reaction, let alone how difficult it was for all of us patriots, all of us people that are saying we just, you know, love God and love Jesus. Those that might not be in faith, they still, if they're into freedom, Charlie was for all of those things. What I'm trying to say is the pain that we experienced, wasn't it interesting that I met Charlie one time at a AmFest event, interviewed him with a different conservative network a while ago, years ago. How in the world did I feel a pain that I felt like it was an actual brother of mine? Can you talk to us about what it was like for you?
I can. You know, look, I knew Charlie for a very long time. I've known Charlie for 11 years. We worked together for 10 of those years. And, you know, it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, it's exactly what you said. Charlie, he touched people in a way that was different than politics, right? And the reason why is because he wasn't pursuing politics for politics' sake. What he knew is that politics is but a temporary band-aid because the root causes of the issues that face this country and face Western civilization today, they stem from the sinful heart of man. They stem from the fall that happened in the garden, you know, all those years ago. And so he was actually pursuing liberty because he knew that when people understood where liberty came from, they would ultimately find faith. And look, his legacy, you know, he said it just a few months before he was killed. His legacy wasn't about partisanship. His legacy was about his love for Jesus Christ. It was his love for his family, and it was his love for his country, his love for freedom and opportunity and prosperity for all Americans, not just Americans that agreed with him, for everyone. And that really resonates differently. And unfortunately, we are seeing a toxicness on the left because they look right past that and cherry pick statements that they think they can spin out of context to demean a man who wanted the best for them too, right? And, you know, it's that heart is what comes through. That's why people felt that pain that you were expressing.
Exactly. And then the faith aspect, you know, an actual brother in Christ, part of the family of God, one of our brothers was taken out. But the thing is we know we'll see him again. Also, sir, let's talk about the fact that he was always over the target. He was brilliant. He took down the barriers of the woke left mind virus better than anybody. And just
I have never seen someone, Matt, work as hard as Charlie did to dismantle the apparatus of the left. Because the reality is that the left builds machines to take over cultures, to take over society, whether that be academia, like we saw on college campuses and high school campuses, whether that be, media and culture, right? Whether that's radio, whether that's television, movies, etc. Politics, obviously. And he was so good at laser focusing on what the root causes of the problems were, and then focusing not just himself and his own attention, but the attention of whether it be donors, whether it be activists, whether it be, organizations, fellow organizations. Charlie was a bridge builder, even with organizations that you could consider, quote unquote, competing with his own organization. He was constantly extending olive branches. He was constantly reaching out to the leaders of those groups, praising them for the things that they were doing, and trying to build the strongest unified pro-freedom movement. And that, I think it speaks, tremendously to that point, is that he helped engineer the RFK-Trump alliance, right? And now we have this incredible MAHA movement happening at HHS, happening all throughout this country. And that was because Charlie said, let's build a bridge. I mean, that's the type of man that he was. And look, we really wanted to honor him with this license plate. We've got a couple of other bills, Matt. We've got a bill to rename a freeway here in Arizona. We've got a bill to allow allow a private organization to build a statue in our memorial kind of statuary park right across from the Capitol. And we're going to, hopefully, if she signs it, we'll rename that plaza the Charlie Kirk Freedom Plaza. And that would be an incredible tribute as well.
It would be an incredible tribute. And I think every state across the union should have at least one thing that is, whether it's a statue, whether it's a sign, whether it's a street sign, something
Amen.
For
That's
Charlie
right.
Kirk, because the massive majority of the United States of America absolutely loved, with everything they had, people like Charlie Kirk. And what brilliance of a person. Again, always over the target, in heaven now. But again, thank you for joining us, Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman, for that breakdown.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Wow. Guys, when we talk about these kind of things, these very real things, I know we're in the 24/7 news cycle. I know that we have Operation Epic Fury going on. I know that we need to pass the Save America Act. I know we know what's going on out there, right? We've been monitoring every story that you can pretty much think of when it comes to top headline stories, and other stories as well. That's partly what we're supposed to do here as journalists at the network and in conservative media. But before we go to our couple sponsors here, Director, could you put the license plate up full screen by chance? As we just take a look at this license plate, that is the license plate that the state senator is talking about. And Katie Hobbs said, "No, you can't have that." Where are the people? Where are the people's choices when it comes to a license plate? If someone doesn't like Charlie Kirk, then don't get the license plate. If you don't like the United States of America, move to another country. Come on, guys, let's make it common sense. You know what I mean? If you really hate freedom and you hate the United States, do you really want to live here then? Anybody? Hello? Anyway, let's take a quick break. If we could put that full screen on the way out on this break, and just remember the great Charlie Kirk, guys. Come on, September 21st. Remember that huge memorial in Glendale, Arizona at the football stadium. What a powerful time. My name's Matthew Alvarez. This is Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's 1:15 Tuesday, March 10th. Thanks so much for live streaming in. We're going to get ready to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to hear from Karoline Leavitt, of course, the White House press secretary, in just a little bit. Let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. Obviously, it's pretty much a free service that we have out there for you guys, but it takes some dollars, of course, to take care of all the things that we do here at the network. And of course, we'll be covering the event in Kentucky coming up. I believe that's tomorrow. The president will be speaking there in Kentucky. And of course, we've always been going to all of these various events out there. But outside of that, just all of the live interviews, the live events, the political coverage that we have here. We want to keep talking about truth and the narrative that is the true narrative. It's pretty simple. It's God, family, country. Just like Charlie Kirk said, it's God, family, country, and he said in that order. Those are the kind of things we like to talk about here and from that perspective. So if you'd like to donate to Right Side, just rsbnetwork.com/donate is the place to do it. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN, the great Mike Lindell, running for governor in Minnesota, and of course has a number of companies, including mypillow.com. So they have this mega sale 2.0 going on, free shipping as well. Pretty much a 1-2 punch, figuratively speaking, that you can get some great products there with My Pillow. All right, 1:17 Tuesday, March 10th. We have some more live interviews coming up, but earlier this morning, I was able to speak with the United States Senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, and we spoke about Sharia law and a number of other topics, so let's check it out. And joining us now is the Alabama United States Senator, Coach Tommy Tuberville. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's get right into Sharia law. We had a guest on prior to you that was breaking down what Sharia law is. He was Iranian-born, Muslim, Shiite, now a Christian, a host, a pastor, talking about Sharia law. So, yeah, your thoughts about that awful, awful law?
Yeah, Sharia law is not a religion, it's a cult. And we'd better start understanding that because the cult is coming our direction. We have several million now that are basically studying Sharia law. They're trying to teach it in their schools. You know, we've got a lot of Islamists here that are not here to assimilate. And we all love immigrants. And most of us are immigrants at one way or the other. But as we came over, we assimilated. We went by the rules. We went by the laws. We went by the Constitution. We believed in this country. We love this country. All Sharia law does is teach death to America. And to me, that right there, you know, if you're studying Sharia law, you don't fit into this country. Now, in my state of Alabama, we have banned Sharia law, which is good, but we've got to make sure we enforce it. So future possibly being governor, I'll make sure that happens in the state of Alabama.
100%, and the people of Alabama are behind you with that. And of course, across the country, I mean, we know that the United States Constitution, as we've heard it before, is the law of the land, not Sharia law. So we see that you're doing great work to make sure the Constitution stays the law of the land. Let's also go to the Save America Act. In order to keep this going, we have to show some ID, don't we, sir?
We have to show ID. We don't need ballot harvesting. We have to have same-day voting. There are several things that have to be involved in the Save America Act. We have to remember there's 15 states in this country that there's no possible way any Republican can ever win because it's all rigged, from the voting machines to harvest balloting to counting votes 2 or 3, 4 days later. I mean, it's nonsense. And then you go back to just the most important thing is they're allowing people to vote in elections that are not citizens of this country. I mean, it shouldn't happen. And so the Save America Act, as President Trump keeps pushing, we have to make sure that we do our part up here. We have to pass it. We have no choice, because if we allow these 15 states to rig their states, and then all they have to do is get a half a dozen more, and the leadership changes in the Senate and the House, and then possibly even the future after President Trump's gone, even in the White House, we cannot allow a Democrat to even get close to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue again. If we do, we've lost this country. The borders will be open. Everything will be no law enforcement, and the American citizens that love this country are going to be a second-class citizen. We're going to turn this country into a third-world country.
It's exactly what people are saying out there. You're speaking our language. You know, we the people listen to our leaders like you, sir, and we agree with that. And specifically within the Save America Act, one more question there. Are you on the nuke the filibuster train?
100%. I mean, and we have to do it. Let me tell you why. We're going around this country now, and I have friends in airports and have family in airports, and people are traveling. People are going through cities. Law enforcement is trying their best. DHS is trying their best. The things that are going on right now with the TSA, there's a 3, 4, 5 hour wait sometimes in the lines. And you're hearing people say, you know, I don't know whether I'm ever going to vote Republican again, because they will not fix this. And my colleagues go, well, it's not our fault, it's the Democrats' fault. No, it's our fault, because if we nuke the filibuster, we can fix everything in this country. But if we refuse to nuke the filibuster, yes, we are going to get blamed for it next November, and we're going to get run out of Dodge all across the Congress and the Senate.
So would you say nuking the filibuster is one of the biggest things that can really save the country right now?
100%. It's the only thing that's going to save the country. If they get in charge again, it's going to be over with, because they will bust it once they first get in. And so they will make it so hard on us to be able to gain control in the House, the Senate, or the White House, because it's going to be rampant open borders, rampant cheating with people that are not citizens in this country. We'll see a $50 to $60 trillion budget deficit so fast, because they will be giving away money like candy. And I don't think we understand that up here. I don't think my colleagues understand. We are getting the blame for this. I mean, we're saying, hey, you know, we're voting for it. No, we're not. We could pass it today. We could pass the SAVE Act today. We could fund the government today. All we got to do is say 51 votes. Now, I'm not sure we can get 51 votes out of the Republicans. We've got a lot of people that don't believe a lot of things that you and I believe in to save this country. They're more on the Democratic side. So I would hope that we could do this. But the problem is there's too many distractions in the way.
It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. Let's talk about two more things before I let you go. Thanks again for spending the time with us. I know you're running for governor right here in the state of Alabama. Can you talk to us about your campaign, and also how proud are you to have the U.S. Space Command in Huntsville, Alabama?
Well, we've got a great state, and a great state that's really, really growing. We've grown almost more than most states in the country. Especially in the Southeast. We've overtaken Georgia, we've overtaken Mississippi, we've overtaken Florida of growth. I'm talking about growing people coming in. I spoke in Huntsville, Alabama yesterday, and they are growing 17 people a day in just that one city. And so we got a great place to live. Huntsville is the rocket city. It's the place where we have Army Material Command, we have the Missile Defense Agency, we have all kind of people that work and build missiles. I think we have 300 different contractors. And as you just said, we got Space Command. Space Command controls everything from no matter what, private or military, that goes into space. And they're moving to Huntsville, and it's going to be a lot of new jobs, a lot of growth. But again, it's a special place because of all the things we have there space-wise already. They're going to work very well together. And President Trump was right when he gave it to us the first time. Joe Biden moved it to Colorado Springs, but now President Trump's moving it back.
And it's great to see that it's coming back to Alabama. Senator Tommy Tuberville, we thank you for what you do for us as we the people. Please keep up the good work. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. All right, so that was, of course, Senator Tommy Tuberville. As we get ready for some more live interviews, it was great to connect with one of the greatest senators that I've seen, covering the news for more than, 20 years now. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, I'm 44, but that guy is on the right side of history. So it's always good to have people like that join us, along with a number of other great guests that we've had here on Right Side. This is all brought to you by some great sponsors as well, including Birch Gold Group. So just think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. So at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. Smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals. And that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a state of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. To get this all started, just text that number. You see it on your screen, Trump to the number 989898. You'll receive a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. And now they have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So you can let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. Text Trump to 989898. Again, that's Trump to 989898. Also brought to you by All Family Pharmacy. As we spoke about earlier, the fact that ivermectin is back in the headlines, the National Cancer Institute has launched early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. Now, this isn't a treatment recommendation, it's more early stage research, but it does highlight how the medications out there that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. For many Americans, that raises an important question about access to those medications. So you've been looking for a reliable place to get things like, or medications like ivermectin, antibiotics, mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine, how about NAD+, or more than 300 other prescriptions out there. All Family Pharmacy makes that process simple. So you just go online, you complete a short medical form, then a licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. So All Family Pharmacy simply believes Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that all possible. So just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use the RSBN 10 promo code for 10% off. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN 10. All right, it is approaching the bottom of the hour, 1:30 here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Joining us now is a veteran leader who's running for Congress in South Carolina, Alex Pelbath. Thank you again for your service, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back.
Definitely, of course. So let's talk about South Carolina first, and then we can analyze more about Epic Fury in a second. But let's talk about the Palmetto State. What does it look like right now, and why are you throwing your hat in the ring running for Congress in that great state?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, part of my background is a 22-year Air Force veteran. At the tail end of my career, I was the commander who was on the ground for the evacuation of Kabul. I flew the last aircraft out of Afghanistan back in 2021. And what I witnessed there was political leaders putting their political agenda ahead of the needs of Americans and the needs of this country. And what I've realized is looking forward to if we look at what happens if the Democrats take control of the House or the Senate in 2026, we know everything that President Trump has been accomplishing in this last year, right? He's accomplished arguably more than any president in history in just this last year. Well, all of that comes to an end. And while I think Afghanistan was terrible, I think the future the left wants for this country is so much more dangerous. I think there's a battle going on for conservative values in this country right now. There's a battle going on for the values that we here in the Low Country of South Carolina hold so dear. And what I've learned is politicians don't win wars. Leaders do, and I wasn't made to sit on the sidelines for this fight.
Exactly. So then 22 years in the Air Force, then also all of the resume that you have there, and a patriot at heart. So it's kind of a win-win, obviously, for the people of South Carolina to see you as a congressman there. How do you see our country going forward if we don't pass something like the Save America Act?
But it's pretty obvious, like something like 80% of all Americans, right? This is a bipartisan desire from all Americans to to have some sort of voter ID. Everybody realizes only American citizens should be voting in our elections. And what I think is so apparent from the left, I mean, this is one of the reasons we as Republicans need to be fighting so hard for every one of these seats, is that the Dems know they can only hold the House. Just President Trump said it today. They know they can only hold the House if they have non-citizens voting. They know they can only flip seats, keep control of the power that they currently have if non-citizens are voting. So it is a massive threat to the entire Democrat base right now, which is why they're fighting so hard. And that is the future, right? If we don't get this right in 2026, that is the future for America.
Earlier, we were discussing with the senator out of Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, about the fact of nuking the filibuster. This is a very high stakes, high priority, very serious time in the country. Would you say the same? Would you say, hey, we can't be playing footsie with people that don't want our country to succeed, right?
Yeah, I think that's a real challenging one. I understand why there's hesitation in the Senate on the Republican side, right? Anything we do for good, we know that the Dems, if they ever get in control again, are just going to use it against us, for evil. So I understand the hesitation there. I like the idea of the talking filibuster, of really holding the Democrats' feet to the fire. I love what President Trump is saying right now, that he's not going to sign another piece of legislation until we get the SAVE Act through. I think this is what we continue to do, is continue to put pressure on the Democrats, continue to expose exactly why they are resisting this bill, and do the best that we can to keep fighting for America this way, to really, it is aptly named the SAVE Act, and President Trump want to call it Save America Act. That is an appropriate title for this bill.
Exactly, and adding a few other policies within that Save America Act, so it's a total of about 5 things, including the voter ID, proof of citizenship. Let's shift over to day 10 of Operation Epic Fury. How do you see the 10-day war? Some president called it the excursion. There's just a lot of different names, but at the end of the day, surgical strikes that are hitting and crushing Iran.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. This is a military operation, is what it is. It's not a war. It's a military operation that we are carrying out in a pretty amazing fashion right now. And it's a perfect example of what our United States military is capable of when we are focused on the right things being the mission and the mission only. So I love that we've gotten back to focusing specifically on that. We've got all the nonsense, the woke nonsense is getting out of the military now, and being able to focus on that. And what we're seeing from President Trump, the reason this has been so successful in 10 days is for 2 specific reasons. And, I contrast this with what happened in Afghanistan. One is, you don't tell the bad guys your plans. I don't tell them what we're willing to do and not willing to do. Everything is on the table to accomplish our mission objective, number one. And number 2, we're not putting an end date on this thing. President Trump has said, we will be there until this job is complete. And I think at this point, the only mistake we make is not finishing what we started.
And a number of people saying that as well out there. Sir, can you talk to us about what it's like to see the military under the leadership of Pete Hegseth instead of whatever the heck that was under Biden?
Yeah. What I saw was politicians wearing uniforms back there. Every decision. I mean, I was in meetings on the ground in Kabul, listening to military leadership talk politics. It was incredibly disappointing to be part of that. It is awesome to see what's happening now. I'll tell you what, this is, I retired for the right reasons 2 years ago, but this was the first time I wish I was still wearing the uniform. If I could get back in this fight right now, I would. And I know a lot of people, it's not a surprise that recruiting is at an all-time high right now. And it's because people join the military. We put on the uniform to serve America. And one of the best ways I ever heard it put was the job of the United States military is to make sure we keep things in a away game. America doesn't like home games when it comes to military operations. We want away games. And that's why we put the uniform on. So getting the opportunity, watching what our troops all across the board, all services are being able to accomplish I think it's pretty special and pretty impressive, and not a surprise that it has been an amazing success.
And finally, and I agree with you, can you talk to us about your primary date coming up? Of course, the midterms, even though it's not really around the corner, I think we should start kind of saying it is, because it's a big deal.
We should, and this seat's a very big deal. This is a seat that we know is being targeted by the Democrats to try to flip this seat specifically. As one, I think it's in their top 5, as a matter of fact. So getting this right matters. The primary in this election matters. I think what we're seeing around the world, I have pretty strong policy background, right? I was a Pentagon guy, I was a budget policy guy, I was a national defense policy guy. So that having that type of experience, we're seeing what's happening in a country, so incredibly important to America, to this race right now. My primary date is June 9th. That'll be, we'll decide then if we put forth the right Republican. I am the right Republican. I'm the only veteran really running in this race on the Republican side as well. And so that's what President Trump needs, what America needs is no more politicians. We need leaders up there. We need veteran combat experience by President Trump's side. So June 9th and pellbathforcongress.com is where folks can find out about my race.
Awesome. Sir, thank you again for your service. Thanks for running, and keep us updated on your campaign. Alex Pellbath, running for Congress in South Carolina, a veteran leader who's ready to go to Washington. Thank you again, sir.
Amen. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. All right, it's 1:35 Tuesday, March 10th. Thanks again for live streaming here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 1:37 Eastern. Thanks again for live streaming in here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, we're going to see the Press Secretary, Karoline Leavitt, coming up in just a little bit there at the White House. This is something that was added to the White House's schedule just about a few hours ago. So this is a new event that's happening today. So we'll hear from her in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Of course, the building that you see right there on your screen. We'll be seeing Karoline there in about 23 minutes or so. If it's delayed a little bit, we have plenty to go over here at the network. But let's go to Rumble Wallet, because if you've been hearing and seeing some of these conversations happening, censorship is unfortunately back, and it's happening at a number of platforms. They're controlling narratives. They're trying to push the stuff they want us to see, but we have the ability to fight back in that information area financially as well, because Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. So on one side of all of this, Rumble is actually challenging big tech censorship. But on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. So banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that no one can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us and others without any middleman taking the cut. So with Rumble Wallet, you control your money. So not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours and only yours to protect your future and family. So you can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. It's not only a wallet to buy and save as well, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with the click of a button. There's no fees when you tip our channel or others out there. And we actually receive the tip instantly, unlike other platforms where we have to wait for a payout. So you could support our show here at Right Side and other creators out there by clicking the tip button on our channel. You can also go to wallet.rumble.com, one place you can check out everything. You can also download Rumble Wallet in the app stores. Great to have Rumble Wallet as one of our sponsors here. as we are airing live, of course, right now on Rumble as well as other platforms. Great to do that here at Right Side. Let's go to Cove Pier. As you see on your screen there, we're past all of the New Year, New Me stuff. That's where Cove Pier comes in, because there's a lot of ways we can, go on these diets and get all the right food and work out and all that. But water is one of the most important things to make sure it's good and quality water. It doesn't have all of the junk in it, the things like the microplastics, the PFAs, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, yuck. And then on top of that, you guys know after you sip some tap water, it tastes like crap. Can I say that? Yes, I can. I just did. It tastes like crap. Who wants to drink tap water? I don't know. I don't. Anyway, covepier.com is the place to go, guys. covepier.com/RSBN. What a great filtration system this is. And it lets you choose the temperature of your water, hot, cold, or warm, with just a tap of a button. And it makes your water taste good, the way it's supposed to be. So you get $250 off for a limited time. So go to covepier.com/RSBN. Again, it's covepier.com/RSBN. You can use the QR code as well. Meantime, it's 1:40. We're about 20 minutes out from heading to the White House. And of course, speaking of the White House, we can travel once again there to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where earlier we caught up with White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson. And joining us now is White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be chatting with you today.
Same to you. Let's talk about one thing that a lot of people are talking about, the originally called the SAVE Act. Now, of course, President Trump so rightly coining it the Save America Act. Could you talk to us about how the White House is looking at this right now?
Absolutely. I think the Save America Act is so aptly named because that's really what this legislation will do. It will save our country. And the President of the United States has laid out some critical items he wants included in this. It includes no mass mail-in voting. It includes voter ID when you cast your ballot, something that is so common sense that the vast majority of Americans, including Democrats, support. It includes proving your citizenship when you register to vote. And it also includes some other common sense proposals that, again, the vast majority of the American people support. No men and women's sports and no transgender mutilation surgeries for children.
And then on top of that, the photo ID. So, I mean, it looks like we have the Save America Act that has been added to when it comes to election integrity and a number of other great things that the American people want to see happen. So this is turning into a very big piece of legislation. Let's talk about what President Trump was talking about earlier in the week about other countries having voter ID and our country not having such a thing. I mean, what are your thoughts about the fact that other nations are doing this? We should be right there with them too.
Yeah, and I mean, forget about what other nations are doing. Let's look at the opinions of the American people. Like I said, this is something that is supported by the vast majority of the American people. I mean, think 80, 90% of Americans back these common sense measures to keep our elections safe and secure. And again, Democrat voters also support these common sense measures. The only people who are standing in the way of getting this across the finish line and who don't support these common sense measures are Democrat politicians. And the president has correctly asked the question, why don't Democrats want to ensure that only Americans vote in American elections?
Exactly, and a lot of people are asking that question. Same with when we look and shift to sanctuary cities. A lot of the large cities out there would say they are a sanctuary city, but it looks like DHS, when it comes to the funding and the operation of mass deportations, it just still has to keep going in order to minimize criminal illegal aliens in the sanctuary cities. Is that pretty much the solution to that problem?
Yes, and the president was elected based on his promise to carry out the largest mass deportation operation of criminal illegal aliens. Despite the Democrats' resistance, he is carrying that out in full force. We have deported countless terrible, dangerous criminal illegals convicted of heinous crimes, murder, rape, assault, trafficking. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the same year that the president has carried out this mass deportation operation, you're seeing crime rates in the United States drop across the board. We have the lowest crime rate in over 125 years, and that includes dropping crime rates, with things like murder, assault, all of that. Like I said, it's not a coincidence that at the same time we're deporting these violent criminal illegal aliens, American cities are getting safer.
Exactly. And now under the leadership of Mark Wayne Mullen over there at DHS, let's talk about DHS a little bit more with this partial government shutdown thanks to the Democrats as well. This is not something you mess with, right? You're talking Department of Homeland Security and the Transportation Security Administration with flights. This is getting ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting crazy. And it just goes to show you that the Democrats' priorities are all out of whack. They are more concerned with scoring points with their radical left base than they are with keeping the country safe and with ensuring that Americans who are relying on airports and transportation every single day are having a smooth process. I'm sure you've seen the news over the weekend. There have been massive TSA security lines at airports, think 3-4 hours. And this is a pain that the American people are having to endure because the Democrats have decided to shut down the department. And that's not even to mention the Americans who are going without paychecks, the TSA officers who are missing pay because, once again, of the Democrats' decision to keep the Department of Homeland Security shuttered.
And it looks like, according to a White House press release earlier this week, about 100,000 people not getting paid. These are people that are paid to secure the nation, and that is not something you mess with, and the Democrats, of course, have been doing that. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, so an update there from the White House as we get ready for the update from Karoline Leavitt as well, coming up in just a little bit. Thanks again for live streaming in with us. As you see, Kalshi is one of our great sponsors in the top corner of your screen, and there's a number of trending political market questions right now and places that you can bet or trade or just check out the polls. How about if you go to kalshi.com/RSBN, you get a free $10 credit when you trade $100. So one of the questions out there, when will DHS be funded again? That's something we just talked about. You just saw there with Abigail Jackson, the Deputy White House Press Secretary. You can place your trade now at kalshi.com/RSBN. There's the QR code for you. So just go to kalshi.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side. A lot of different topics to choose from as well online. And again, this is something that's growing out there for people to see just the polls and how people are voting or betting or trading. Very popular and growing with more than 1 million users. kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, we can go to another sponsor here, Angel Paste out of Spring, Texas, of course. You can get your, whether it's the lotion or mists, there's all kinds of products that you can check out there, angelpaste.com. You can use that RSBN promo code at checkout. That always goes a long way. Get that 10%. Great sponsor here. You can use the QR code as well. Angelpaste.com is the place to go. It's 1:47 Eastern Time. We are going to go now to our next live interview. We're going to get some updates coming up soon when it comes to the Department of War. But in the meantime, let's go to our live interview, as you might see already on the screen there. Joining us now is the DataVault AI Inc. founder and CEO, Nathaniel Bradley. First, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Definitely. I've seen you on a number of networks out there. Can you tell us about your company, first of all, DataVault AI Inc.?
Sure. We're a company that's developed a system that allows companies to turn data to cash. We have a system that allows for the identification of value within data. So when you look at any data asset, wherever it resides, how much is it worth? Our company is about illuminating that value.
All right, so a lot of talk about AI and cryptocurrencies and tech, and to be honest, I am not a whatever you want to call it. I just don't know about all of that stuff. So help inform us on some things, especially this. Would you call it a fake news NBC poll? Because I know it's an NBC poll out there showing that the majority of voters say the risks of AI outweigh the benefits. What's your response to that?
Well, it's a good debate for us to be having right now. It's timely. We need to discuss the kind of internal and external threats, both the robotics that are coming over. Robotics is moving so quickly that the hardware can't keep up with the software. One of the greatest problems they have is cloning the intelligence of robots to additional robots. And that process is being solved for. So you have external threats with AI. You have internal threats. Your newsroom might be infiltrated already behind the firewall. People using AI to construct words, use language learning methodologies within AI, LLMs, to essentially assist you in creating everything from press releases to the announcements that you make, how you verbalize things. We have an assistant now that can work extremely quickly and has an output that is usually following some input from us. And that input, we have a very difficult time reeling in this technology. You see our vice president says he's a Grok guy. You have individuals calling out what AI they prefer to use, but in their usage of it, it's rather deep. It's not just a chat interface or a search engine anymore. Your exchange now goes from your complete person, your complete business, into an AI that's now helping assist you in whatever ways it can.
So overall, the question that comes to mind is a common sense question. Are you for AI or against AI? Obviously, you run an AI company, so I know the answer, but what are your thoughts?
I'm for AI that's subordinate. I chose IBM Watson X AI to be our AI engine at Data Vault. We use a very specific version of AI provided by IBM. It's subordinate to human beings. It works for us. And I think that's a question you need to ask your AI agents. Agents need to be asked who they work for. They definitely have no consequences. The consequences reside with us. And if you look at how we've been infiltrated by this AI, we have employees that choose to use AI in any walk of their daily life, and they're exposing our company to the entirety of the internet. And to have AI sitting there as a bot or as a system that's there to learn you so it never needs you anymore is an interesting proposition. If it learns you, it doesn't need you anymore. And I am pro the use of AI when it's subordinate to human beings. I am not for AI like an open brain that's meant to learn us and never need us anymore.
Loud and clear. So let's also talk about Anthropic, that company suing to block the Pentagon blacklisting over AI use restrictions. What the heck did I even just say? What does this all mean for people that have no idea what I just said there? Again, Anthropic suing to block Pentagon blacklisting over AI use restrictions. What?
Yeah, so not favorable in my view. Not a smart move for Anthropic to do that. Our government, provides us with a lot of opportunities. In sorting out AI at our Pentagon shouldn't be a private sector issue where we're going on a full court press there. We need some time to sort all this out. It's going so quickly, and I think our government's trying to get its arms around something that, they're just getting up to speed with social media. How could you expect, our government to get its arms around AI when our private sector is using it ravenously without even understanding the exchange of value this time? We had Google and search, and we know kind of what we gave away there. It was advertising, targeting, and information about us. But this is a different exchange, and we need to understand that exchange more fully. And when you have people like Elon Musk and others warning us, saying that, look, that thing was supposed to be non-for-profit, and now it's for-profit, and it's a bit of a monster. We need to take heed to these warnings. Now, with Anthropic and our government, that move that they've made is a full court press. Hey, these technologies are coming whether you like it or not. And that's partially true. But our government does have a place in this. For the regular middle America to hold up your hands and say cybersecurity and all these issues that we're facing are a little bit above the daily American living. And there is a role for our government to play, just like paving the roads, that we need a safe and secure access to this technology. And to sue our government at its time of war, in its Department of War, may be a little bit of a full court press that we're just not ready for. So I'm on the side of the government, pumping the brakes a little bit on these tools, and any way we can get our arms around what this exchange means for people. And, our company's focused on illuminating the value of data, But first, data must be secure, and cybersecurity is as big as poverty as an issue that we face as a community. Cybersecurity is a very important issue as we approach the quantum leap. And cybersecurity, quite frankly, trumps AI in terms of why it's so important for us. Cybersecurity means human beings controlling these computers and being on top of it and having control of our own data and owning it. And, you know, the use of AI encroaches some of those issues. And so I remain pro AI in the subordination to human beings. But we have to have the dialogue with it even to understand it has no consequences. We carry all the consequences. And we must, if we rely on it, understand where it's coming from, how it's being assembled, and what those results ultimately for human beings, when it's endorsed and approved by human beings, how that work product can move forward. And so I think there's a lot of things our government can provide for middle America and for all of us Americans to light the way of safe use of this technology.
Data Vault AI Inc. founder and CEO Nathaniel Bradley, thanks so much for breaking it down from your perspective, sir. There's a lot to take in, a lot to learn there. But Nathaniel, thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, so it's 1:55, Tuesday, March 10th. Great to speak with someone on that level. I'll tell you what, let's be honest about this. When you're a journalist, you have to kind of learn about all different kinds of subjects. That one, man, I got a lot more work to do. I'm just being straight up with you guys. You know, when you're coming at it just loving God, family, and country, right? And then you're talking AI and all this other stuff. I mean, it's stuff we're going to start getting into, of course, but a lot of research yet to be done. With that, I got to do better at that. All right, anyway, so we're about 4 minutes from the top of the hour. Let's go to a couple of our sponsors before we get ready to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You see there, Birch Gold Group. Think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So smart Americans, a number of them, are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. So that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. So even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. Just text Trump to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, you can let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, and you get some peace of mind there as well. Text Trump to 989898. One more sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, All Family Pharmacy. Ivermectin, as you guys have been hearing maybe throughout the broadcast, is back in those headlines. Because the National Cancer Institute has launched early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. So it isn't a treatment recommendation, it's early stage research. But it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. And for many Americans, that raises an important question about access. So if you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin or mebendazole, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, NAD+, that list goes on, you can find that through All Family Pharmacy. So the process is simple. You go online, complete a short medical form, and a licensed physician will review your request and prescribes it if appropriate. They believe Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make this possible. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Check it out right there. Use that code RSBN10, or you can use the QR code that you see there as well. All right, so we're a couple minutes out from heading to Washington to the White House. As again, if you're just joining us, this was not part of the president's schedule or the White House's schedule last night. Usually that is sent out to members of the press, including us here at Right Side. And this morning, I believe it was maybe 10 a.m., there was an addition to today's schedule there at the White House. So it's a press conference with Karoline Leavitt. So we'll be taking you there live as soon as we see that feed. In the meantime, speaking of press conferences, speaking of Washington, D.C., instead of the White House, let's go to the Pentagon for a quick Department of War update, clip number 1.
as President Trump declared yesterday, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Where we are is in a very strong place, giving the President of the United States maximum options. And from the beginning, from this podium, we haven't stated how long it will take. Our will is endless. Ultimately, the President gets to determine the end state of those objectives, right? But what he's said continually, and I want the American people to understand, is this is not endless. It's not protracted. We're not allowing mission creep. The President has set a very specific mission to accomplish, and our job is to unrelentingly deliver that. Now, he gets to control the throttle. He's the one deciding, he's the one elected on behalf of the American people when we're achieving those particular objectives. And so it's not for me to posit whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end. That's his, and he'll continue to communicate that. What we serve him as is we give him updates on a daily basis of exactly where we are so he can make that determination on the throttle.
Since our last update, CENTCOM continues to make progress across the southern flank. To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability. And of course, alongside our regional partners along the southern flank, continue to execute intercepts against one-way attack drones using fighters and attack helicopters. Our strikes mean we've made significant progress in reducing the number of missile and drone attacks out of Iran. Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward, 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the beginning of the operation. A testament to our air defenders and our air defense systems, and as I said, our partners in the region continue to do great work as well. Second, we're making substantial progress towards destroying the Navy. In the first 10 days of the conflict, we're more than 50 Iranian naval ships into the campaign using a combination of artillery, fighters, bombers, and sea-launched missiles. As Admiral Cooper noted last Thursday, we struck and sank an Iranian drone carrier ship, and U.S. CENTCOM continues today to hunt and strike mine-laying vessels and mine storage facilities. This work will continue. Third, against our objectives, we've begun to target Iran's military and industrial complex, again, focusing on centers of gravity to get upstream of the shooters out in the field in order to deny them the ability to continue to generate those one-way attack drones. Last night, as the news has been reporting, we honored the return of Staff Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of the U.S. Army's 1st Space Brigade from Fort Carson, Colorado. When I met Ben's family last night, his mom, his dad, and his sister, they showed me a drawing that Ben had made when he was in kindergarten. It was clear all the way back then that Ben wanted to do one thing in his life, and he wanted to serve his country and be a soldier. And to the Penningtons, just know how Ben was absolutely a great one. And finally, Major Sorfleet Davies, who returned home this weekend after sadly passing away from a medical condition while on duty in Kuwait. We welcome him home as well and mourn with his family. To the families and the families of all of our fallen, we share in your profound grief. The Joint Force remains eternally grateful for your sacrifice and the gift of a great example that your service members have given all of us. I want you to know that their names will never be forgotten, and you and your family are part of our Joint Force family forever.
All right, this as we have entered day 10 of Operation Epic Fury. We've been monitoring the latest there on CENTCOM, of course, the United States Central Command, and also the Department of War with, I believe that was their 4th press conference as we are now 10 days into Operation Epic Fury. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that, tracking that story and many others, including the Save America Act. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Before we do, let's go to this. If you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. Simple as that. So if you just go there, if you want to drop $1, $100, $5, whatever. If you can't do any of it, trust me, I hear you. It's all good. But still, at the end of the day, this is a free service for you guys, and it's something that just, it does cost some dollars to do it. We have some great sponsorships, and we thank you for the donations that have happened over the several 10 plus years that we've had here at the network. And to those that donate every month, thank you again for doing that to our network here. So rsbnetwork.com/donate is the place to go. Also, if you want to buy some new products or gifts, go to mypillow.com/rsbn. The Mega Sale 2.0 kicking into high gear. You have free shipping as well. And just the other day, thanks to the in-laws, I have a new Giza Dream Sheets for my wife and I. So that's pretty cool, right? I mean, I always talk about the Giza Dream Sheets. They're awesome. There's a lot of other great products as well, as you guys know. And I do this a few times a week, so I'll do it today. My coffee, good stuff too. Not bad to sip a cup of joe on a Saturday or Sunday morning. Even though the 24/7 news cycle, man, if you've been following it, holy smokes, right? mypillow.com/RSBN is the place to go. Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, it's 2:06. We are going to go to Washington, D.C. any second from now, as this new addition to today's schedule is that 2 o'clock presser with Karoline Leavitt, so we'll be there soon. Meantime, other stories we're monitoring within this 24/7 news cycle in order to pass the Save America Act, and in order to save America, we have to nuke the filibuster. I mean, think about it. This is something that the Senator Tommy Tuberville said on the broadcast just about an hour ago, because we know that the Democrats aren't going to yield to something that's so common sense. Just have a photo ID when you register to vote, or proof of citizenship, you know, when you're voting in federal elections. How could you say that, President Trump? Save America. Who wants to do that? And that's basically what the Democrats are saying. So we're monitoring that. The latest that we're following with the Save America Act, as we see the live picture there, getting ready to start when it comes to that White House press briefing. I'm told everybody's in their seats and ready to go. And no network right now has anything live when it comes to Karoline Leavitt talking, because she hasn't started yet. So we'll take you there in just a second. But the latest on the Save America Act. First, I want to start with a quote that I shared last week from our second great president, John Adams. He said, "You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. You will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom." And he says, "I hope you will make a good use of it." A good use of our time is getting something like the Save America Act passed. A good use of our time is accountability and transparency. A good use of our time, right? So the latest that we're tracking with the act here is it's obviously been received in the Senate, but has not yet been voted on or passed. Senate Majority Leader John Thune out of South Dakota has indicated the Senate would take it up for a vote, quote unquote, very soon or this week. Those are per some reports at the end of February into the beginning of this month. But no vote, of course, has occurred as of the most recent updates. As you guys know, the Republicans hold a majority in the Senate and have secured at least 50 to 51 votes in support, including that support from Senator Susan Collins, pushing it to that 51 votes, including the vice president tiebreaker potential. However, what we've seen is that Democrats are expected to filibuster, meaning they're just going to delay it. They're going to talk, which would require now 60 votes to invoke cloture and advance the bill. Thune has stated Republicans are not even close to the 60 votes needed to overcome a filibuster, and there's no indication of eliminating or bypassing the filibuster rule. My question, and many Americans' question, is why not? Nuke the filibuster. President Trump saying it, Senator Tommy Tuberville saying it, many others saying it. And we see, let's just put it this way. We, the people, see you out there in the Senate and in Congress. We see what's going on. If you guys can't pass the Save America Act, then you don't want to save the country. That's awful. That's not what we voted for. Get the job done. We're the boss. You got to remember, we are the boss. We, the people, a government of, by, and for who? Not a senator, not a congressman or woman. We, the people. It's us. What else is there to say? Let's go to some of our sponsors as we await the White House press briefing there. You see one of them, Kalshi, trending political market right now. A lot of specifics on there. A lot of people talking about when is this DHS funding going to kick back in? Well, the Democrats are having a partial government shutdown. If you're trying to fly in any city across America, I guarantee you there's at least one person on this live stream right now. You're watching us at an airport. And wherever you're watching from, sorry that you have to deal with this TSA long lines that you're dealing with just to get to your destination. But not only the TSA, overall, the Department of Homeland Security, 100,000 people are not receiving their paycheck because the Democrats are playing what? What do they do? Why are they playing with us? We shouldn't do that. Get the job done. Let's get that taken care of too. The passing the democratic situation here when it comes to this partial government shutdown. Get this funding bill taken care of. Kalshi.com is a place where a lot of people are trading, betting, and checking out polls on all sorts of various topics like that as well. So you can too if you'd like. Just go to the QR code you see on your screen or Kalshi.com/RSBN. That's the spot to do it. Great sponsor here at Right Side. Same thing with All Family Pharmacy, last sponsor of the day, I believe. Not the least. We're all. It's great to have everyone here with us at Right Side because ivermectin, as you may have heard, is back in the headlines out there. We actually just interviewed the owner of All Family Pharmacy the other day, Michael Kunzler, about this exact story, that the National Cancer Institute has launched early stage lab research to study how it works in the body, including how it may interact with cancer cells. So it's not a treatment recommendation, it's early stage research, but it does highlight how medications that were once pushed to the sidelines are now being studied by major institutions. And for many Americans, that raises an important question about access. So if you've been looking for a reliable place to get medications like ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, NAD+, mebendazole, antibiotics, and 300 other medications, you can get it through All Family Pharmacy. The process is simple. You go online, you complete that short medical form. A licensed physician reviews your request and prescribes if appropriate. So All Family Pharmacy believes Americans should be able to make informed decisions with their doctors, and they help make that possible. So just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, get that 10% off. You have the QR code as well right there. So you can get the medications that you need. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN as it is. Now Tuesday, March 10th, 2:12 Eastern Time. We're about to see this thing start, this White House press conference. You know, I was thinking earlier, we interviewed the Arizona State Senator Jake Hoffman, and he talked about that license plate, the 4 Charlie custom license plate that you should be able to purchase or have in Arizona, but Katie Hobbs vetoed it. And it's a license plate that you see right there. Thank you, Director. And you know, that's something that you should be able to have the choice to put on your car if you want to. Well, Katie Hobbs says no. Wish we had Carrie Lake in that office as a governor in Arizona. But anyway, so we were talking about Charlie earlier, and we kind of realized today's March 10th, so that's September 10th is when his life was taken. So it's been, I believe that's what, 6 months since Charlie has left. And you know, it's his words, his narrative. People would want to chime in and hear what he has to say. I would have said this then. I already did support Charlie, of course. But the point is, he was always over the target. And when you're brilliant like Charlie Kirk, and when you're on the right side of history, and you stick to truth, you stick to Jesus, you stick to freedom, you stick to God, family, country, and all of that, and then something happens that way. But you know what? He is, again, he's in heaven, so we'll see him again in the future. But just want to point that out, that it was 6 months to the day. And I remember covering that story, and I couldn't believe it when I looked down on my phone and saw what I saw there in Utah that day. And then September 21st, something I talk about a lot here because it's something that, again, you know, a lot of times people want to talk about themselves or whatever. So when I say I saw this, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the truth of the matter of September 21st. What happened was, again, the power of God was moving. It was powerful time in Arizona at the Glendale, Arizona football stadium for the Arizona Cardinals as we remembered and honored the life of Charlie Kirk. And you remember the praise music and people just, their hands lifted in the air and singing to Jesus and remembering Charlie and the presence of the Holy Spirit and all of that. This is stuff you don't hear in the mainstream media. It is what it is. But the point is, that's the main purpose, I believe, what life is all about, is to have your connection with God. Simple as that. But then you have to go through the gospel and understand the gospel means good news. It's good news that you can be forgiven of your sin. It's separated us from God. Here we are, sinful mankind. Here's God, holy and perfect. You can't jump over there, but then you can when you draw the cross right here and you're able to walk right. Come on now, right? This is what Charlie believed. It's what I believe. It's what many of you believe. And if you don't believe that, totally cool, because we're working for freedom here in this country to have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to carry a firearm in the Second Amendment. You're allowed. These are all freedoms. And that's the perspective that we roll with here at Right Side. That's the perspective I like to roll with. And I know that is what Charlie did. And Charlie was 10 million more times brilliant than I probably ever will be, the way he can just do what he did. Amazing. But 6 months ago to the day, he was taken from us, and he should always be talked about until Jesus returns, in my opinion. Whether Jesus returns in 10 days or 10,000 years from now, Charlie Kirk's name should be talked about as much as possible. He is someone that is on the right side of history. And there are many others out there too, in conservative media, podcasters, those that are journalists, that are citizen journalists online, just doing stuff for the country. And then if you don't do that, if you simply vote, at least speak with your friends or family about what's needed to be done in order to save the country, like passing the Save America Act, you are a rock star as well. Everyday America doesn't mean, just one of there's no such thing as an average American citizen, in my opinion. I don't think and nobody is average in America, in my opinion. If you are a citizen of this nation, you're not average. And I think that goes the same way with any country, by the way, because it's human life. So just because the mainstream media and some politicians are not working for you, and I'm not talking about any specifics here, I'm just saying in general what we've seen with globalism and deep statism and all that crap out there, I think that you and we are on the right side of history, and you are awesome. You guys, we the people, a government of, by, and for the people, shall not, perish from this land. That's what the great Abraham Lincoln said in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I stood right where he stood and said that speech, the Gettysburg Address. So as we go to watch Karoline here in about 10 seconds, she's a rock star as well. But the point is, God bless America, guys. Let's go to White House.
Tomorrow, President Trump will travel to the great states of Ohio and Kentucky, where he will tout his economic victories and detail the administration-wide efforts to continuing lowering prices to make everyday life more affordable for working Americans. The president will visit Thermo Fisher Scientific in Ohio and give remarks at Verst Logistics in Kentucky. On Thursday, President Trump and the First Lady will host a Women's History Month event in the East Room. And on Friday, the president will sign several executive orders, and we will provide more details on those later this week. As President Trump shared with the American people last night, the United States military is making tremendous strides towards achieving our military objectives for Operation Epic Fury. 10 days in, this campaign has been a resounding success thus far, and America's warriors are winning this important fight at an even faster pace than we anticipated. More than 5,000 enemy targets have been struck so far. Iran's ballistic missile attacks are down more than 90%, and their drone attacks are down by approximately 85% since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy, and we have destroyed more than 50 Iranian naval vessels, including a major drone carrier ship. None of the regime's vessels are operating in major regional waterways, and the Iranian Navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. The trend is clear. U.S. combat capabilities are increasing and growing more lethal and dominant by the day, while the Iranian terrorist regime's ability to respond has rapidly declined. Now, the U.S. military is moving to dismantle Iran's missile production infrastructure. Our incredible B-2 bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs on deeply buried missile sites. Last night, President Trump reiterated his commitment toward keeping oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz so the United States and all of our allies can receive their energy needs. President Trump will not allow rogue Iranian terrorists to stop the freedom of navigation and the free flow of energy. Let me be clear. It is a good thing to wipe out terrorists who indiscriminately target civilians and attempt to hold the global economy hostage, and President Trump should be commended for doing so. As the president made unequivocally clear to the remaining elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday, if they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward, the stated objectives for Operation Epic Fury remain the same: destroy the terrorist regime's ballistic missiles, raise their Iranian missile industry to the ground, ensure their terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region, and ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. President Trump remains confident these goals will be accomplished in swift fashion. As for the oil, President Trump fully expected the rogue Iranian regime to try and disrupt the global markets. That's why President Trump and his energy team have been planning for this long before the strike and have moved quickly to address these temporary disruptions. Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The president and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the president's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the president is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb. On another matter here at home, President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and frankly Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature. So with that today, I will take your questions. Benny, thank you for being here, and why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Karoline. So my first question is actually about the Save America Act. So one of the biggest things that the Democrats are saying, the claims that they're making, is that the Save America Act, it would prevent married women from voting in elections or make it harder for them. What do you have to say to those claims? Is there any validity to them, and where do you think they're getting this from?
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up, because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting with the exception of illegal aliens. And the greatest way to disenfranchise American citizens from voting in American elections is to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is what Democrats want to do. We see it taking place in Democrat jurisdictions at the state and local level across this country. So the Save America Act corrects that. And as far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women, and minorities, and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV, and I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there are certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote. Again, this is a huge myth, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address it.
Of course, and then just one more question about DHS. The funding issue has been 3+ weeks now. I was at the airport this morning in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was early in the morning, and one of the TSA agents, I saw her, she was kind of tearing up, she was crying, and I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I can't make my phone payment, I can barely make my car payment that's coming up. I think a lot in the Beltway, there's so much noise between Democrats, Republicans. It's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault. But what is the White House's message to the American people that are struggling because they're not getting that paycheck? It's take away the politics. What do you have to say to those people?
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security. He wants TSA, he wants FEMA, he wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks, and he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do, and it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played by Democrats on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Steve.
You said the operation was going faster than anticipated. What is your current timeline for how long the war will last?
So look, as you know, Steve, the president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury. Again, to destroy their missiles and their ability to make them, destroy their navy, permanently deny them nuclear weapons forever, and to, of course, weaken their evil terrorist proxies in the region. We know that the U.S. military and our brave warfighters are quickly and expeditiously executing these objectives well ahead of schedule, but ultimately the operations will end when the Commander-in-Chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back it up, then it's an empty threat. And so President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies. Adriana.
Can you explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though, of course, that's an option the President has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
And if this was something that was posted erroneously, could it be because of a staffer? What, I guess, will there be any consequences for this? I know you still have to consult, but just generally speaking.
Again, I would defer you to the Department of Energy to answer that question.
And if I could just follow up really quickly.
Sure.
In terms of oil sanctions, the president said that there would be some sanctions that would be lifted. Would those be on Venezuela, Russia? Could you give some specifics there and then timing for that as well?
Sure. I know it's something that the Treasury Department and the President's energy team continue to discuss, and they will ultimately consult with the President before decisions are made. I don't have any announcements on new sanctions or the lifting of new sanctions for you today. Alex.
Thank you. Reuters has reported that about 150 U.S. service members have been injured so far. Can you confirm that number and elaborate on that?
I can't confirm the exact number. I know it's within that ballpark, but I would defer you to the Pentagon for a specific number of wounded or injured thus far.
And then secondly, if I can, I wanted to ask about, there was a briefing on the Capitol Hill today, and some senators came out and said they were more convinced than ever that there would be U.S. boots on the ground. Senator Blumenthal said that, in fact. Your reaction to that and any update on President Trump's thinking about it?
Look, I would say that Democrats on Capitol Hill are clearly being quite disingenuous. 3 years ago, not a single Democrat voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terror. Yet now, with President Trump as Commander-in-Chief finally taking the action that so many Democrats have called on the Commander-in-Chief to do for many, many years to wipe out the threat of a rogue Iranian terrorist regime, now all of a sudden Democrats are playing politics with this long-standing bipartisan policy of the United States, and 53 of them in the House recently voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's state sponsor of terror. So I wouldn't take Democrats at their word. As for boots on the ground, the president has talked about this repeatedly. Wisely, he does not rule options out as Commander-in-Chief. So again, I would hesitate to confirm anything that a Democrat on Capitol Hill says right now about the president's thinking. Garrett.
Karoline, you outlined to Steve the military components of what would be involved in ending this war, but it seems like there's a political component too. The president said to Fox earlier today that he doesn't believe the new Ayatollah can live in peace. He made a variety of comments suggesting that he should be involved in picking the new Iranian leader. Is the ending of this war also contingent on Iran selecting a leader that the president finds acceptable? And if so, how is that not the definition of a regime change war?
Look, as President Trump has blatantly and frankly stated, it's obviously within the best interest of the United States and the West to no longer have a radical terrorist in charge of Iran, especially as we see their reaction to Operation Epic Fury. They had their missiles turned towards our Gulf and Arab partners in the region. Again, this was a regime that chanted, or still chants, death to America. We look at the way that they are holding the entire world hostage with the restricting of the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. So the president, I think, is making quite an obvious comment. Again, as for the timeline of the military operations with respect to Iran, we have objectives that we have laid out that the commander-in-chief wants to see achieved. When they are achieved, then it will ultimately be up to the president to end this operation.
Okay, so I think you're not exactly addressing my question, though. Is that political objective also necessary for the president to decide to end this war?
Look, again, I just told you the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. When those objectives are met, the president will dictate the end of these operations when he deems that Iran no longer poses a credible threat to the United States of America. And again, it goes back to what does that unconditional surrender look like? Iran can talk all they want, and their words will be very empty when we've completely annihilated their navy, as we are doing, when we've taken out the threat of their ballistic missile capability, when we can firmly, finally ensure that they can no longer make a nuclear bomb to threaten the United States and our allies and our troops in the region. And that's what President Trump is ultimately seeking to do with respect to this operation.
Karoline?
Jennifer.
There was a shooting outside of a synagogue in Baltimore. Do you know if the president has been briefed on that, and do you have any more details on what happened?
I don't, but we certainly will get you more details, Jennifer, and I don't know if the president has briefed, but I'll check on that when I get back to the Oval Office after this. Sure.
Thanks, Karoline. The president said yesterday for the first time that he had to strike Iran because he believes that Iran was going to strike U.S. targets within 7 days, and then he bumped that down later to 3 days. Where is he getting that?
Well, that's not the first time the president has said that he chose to launch Operation Epic Fury because he felt as though Iran was going to strike the United States and our assets in the region first. Again, I addressed this in the last briefing. This was a feeling the president had based on facts provided to him by his top negotiators who had been engaged with the Iranian regime in a good faith effort. The Iranian regime was lying, deceiving the United States of America, clearly trying to continue their nuclear program to create a bomb that would, of course, threaten the United States of America. Again, their ballistic missile arsenal, they were rapidly and aggressively increasing that by the month to a place where they would essentially build immunity for themselves, where a future president or President Trump would not be able to launch this incredibly successful operation. And so the president, again, as I've reiterated and he has said, was not going to sit back and allow the Iranian regime to threaten or to attack the United States of America any longer.
But there are no U.S. leaders or Israeli leaders who are making those same claims. So is he making this up to justify his decision to go to war now?
The president is not making anything up, Nancy. He is looking at this every single day based on intelligence, based on facts, and based on intelligence that he himself and his negotiators have consumed based on their, again, negotiations with the rogue Iranian regime over the past year. And the president and his team tried in a good faith way to reach a diplomatic deal through peaceful means with the Iranian regime. And Iran chose this path to death and destruction. Iran wanted to attack the United States of America, and the president was not going to sit back and allow that to happen. He was not going to sit back and allow that to happen, and everyone in this room should be grateful for it. John.
Thanks a lot, Karoline. Two questions for you. One has to do with a follow-up to your statement that you made at the beginning of the briefing regarding the Save America Act.
Sure.
Yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke on the effort to potentially have a filibuster broken, the rules for the filibuster broken. He said the votes aren't there, one, to nuke the filibuster, and the votes aren't there for a talking filibuster. He says that's the reality. What's your reaction to what Senator Thune said?
Look, I think President Trump, the urgency behind his need to pass the Save America Act and his desire to get this country-saving legislation passed has been made quite clear. He wants all options on the table, and he wants the Senate to move as quickly as possible through whatever means necessary.
And then secondly, just regarding the president's trip tomorrow, looking ahead, why Ohio and why Northern Kentucky?
Well, why not? These are two great states with great Americans.
Just wanted to know why they were chosen.
Great states with great Americans. The president will be joined by lawmakers from both states who he greatly admires and respects and supports. And he'll be meeting with business owners in both of these places and talking about the economy, which is, of course, the utmost importance to him.
Caroline, thank you. Last week, the Energy Secretary issued a waiver for India to get oil, Russian oils, during this energy crisis.
Yes.
Have you spoken to President about it? What's the idea behind this?
Have I spoken to the president about it?
Yeah.
Yes, I have spoken to the president about it. And the president and the Secretary of Treasury and the whole national security team came to this decision because our allies in India, as you know, Leavitt, have been good actors and have previously stopped buying sanctioned Russian oil. So as we work to appease this temporary gap of oil supply around the world because of the Iranians, we have temporarily permitted them to accept that Russian oil. And this Russian oil was already at sea. It was already out on the water. So this short-term measure, we don't believe it will provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government at this time.
I have one more question about Pakistan. You know, Pakistan is a neighbor of Iran, and Pakistan is also an ally of U.S. President has been praising a lot about the field marshal. Is Pakistan providing any kind of support in this war against Iran?
That I will have to check on with the Pentagon and get back to you. Sure.
The president said yesterday that President Putin told him he wanted to be helpful in the Middle East. The Kremlin put out a statement where Putin said, quote, "I would like to reaffirm our unwavering support for Tehran and our solidarity with Iranian friends." How does the president think that Russia could be helpful, if not helping Iran? And did the president push Putin on Russia sharing intelligence with Iran in this war?
The president and his special envoy Witkoff have both said that, of course, they've sent a message to Russia that if that was taking place, it's not something they would be happy with, and they hope that it is not taking place. As for further details about the discussions between these two leaders, I'll leave it to the president to divulge any more of that conversation, but he did confirm it yesterday and provided you with a little bit of the background and his view and his perspective, as he always does. Luke.
Regarding the missile strike on the Iranian school, how long does the administration expect that investigation to take, and will the White House or the Department of Defense release a full report of its findings once the investigation is complete?
The Department of War will do that. The investigation continues, and as the president said yesterday at his press conference, he will accept the conclusion of that investigation, whatever it may be. We'll go to the back row for some love. Sure, in the back with the glasses. Go ahead.
Regarding the shield of the
Sitting
Americas.
down.
Caroline,
And then you can go, but go first.
Okay, thank you.
Is there an update regarding
You have rough real estate back there, so I'm trying to give you
is
some
there an
love.
update regarding Cuba, and also is an economic deal imminent?
Sure. I don't have any updates on Cuba for you today. Obviously, this is something the administration is actively dealing with. The president's made it quite clear, it's his belief, based on fact, that the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is obviously in a very weak place, economically speaking. The people are crying out for help, and the president believes and knows that the Cuban regime wants a deal. So as you know, Secretary of State Rubio has been engaged in those conversations as directed by the president. I don't have any updates for you today, though.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the Shield of the Americas, the initiative by President Trump this weekend, big names, a lot of countries, but some notable absences. For instance, Colombia, which is a key ally with the United States in terms of counter-narcotics. And President Gustavo Petro was here at the White House, and he met with President Trump. Why wasn't Colombia invited to the Shield of the Americas?
I don't think we're seeing the level of cooperation we quite want to see yet from the Colombian government to invite them to the Shield of America's event in PACT, but we certainly hope that this newfound organization will expand and we can continue to invite additional member countries. But there was quite a few countries there. I believe there were 17 countries represented, 12 heads of state with the president over the weekend. They signed a defense agreement with all of our militaries to emphasize the need to combat drug cartels through Latin America in the Western Hemisphere, and ultimately, of course, to curb the illegal trafficking of drugs to the United States, which is the president's utmost priority in all of this. So it was a great event on Saturday, and we look forward to the coalition expanding. Kelly in the back.
Caroline, thank you. Good to see you. I want to get back to another question that was asked earlier. It talked about the political aspects, but there's also the ideological and the spiritual aspects of what Iran has said for 47 years. Death to America, death to Israel. And we've just finished talking about the fact that terror has been around the world. Iran has been the nexus of that in so many ways. Has the president stated clearly to the American people why this is such an imminent threat in order for Democrats on Capitol Hill and Republicans and the American people to understand how imminent the threat was?
I think he has, Kelly. I mean, you've heard from the president on an almost daily basis over the course of the past 10 days. You've heard it from me at this podium. You've heard it from the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States. You know, the president's top cabinet and his officials have been repeatedly explaining to the American public the threat that Iran has posed to our country in this moment, but of course, over the course of the past 47 years. And their words, again, chanting death to America, speak for themselves. Go ahead. You can follow up.
Why the division within the American people? I realize that we have the people are talking about the War Powers Act, they're talking about all kinds of issues, but have people forgotten just how imminent that threat was? If they keep saying death to America and death to Israel, they mean it.
Look, I don't think the American people have forgotten, but I think Democrats on Capitol Hill, they have not forgotten, but they are just so plagued with this resistance to President Trump on everything that they do that, again, they can't even rally behind the common sense, bipartisan, long-standing principle of the United States of America that Iran absolutely poses a threat to the United States, that Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. And I think that's reflected, again, in their voting pattern. In 2023, every single member of the House of Representatives, with the exception of one, I believe the final vote was 412 to 1 in 2023 for a resolution condemning Iran as the world's state leading sponsor of terror. And now in this year, under this president in 2026, 53 Democrats voted against that exact same resolution with the exact same language. I don't think that's a change in the threat that Iran has posed to the United States. I think it's a change in the Democrat Party's thinking and their vicious hatred for President Trump. Danny? Sure.
National threat level, following on Kelly, what's the national threat level right now because of this death to America, death to Israel issue?
I believe the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have repeatedly and continuously provided updates on the threat level to the homeland. I don't want to speak on it out of turn from up here, but of course, the federal government is continuing to coordinate and partner with local law enforcement agencies across the ground to thwart potential threats to the homeland. This is something the administration obviously takes very seriously. We are thwarting threats that, frankly, most Americans don't know about because they never make headlines, but that's the great work that the Department of Homeland Security is doing, and it emphasizes and underscores the point of why Democrats need to fund and reopen fully the Department of Homeland Security right now. Danny.
School. Why did President Trump say yesterday that Iran may have Tomahawk missiles when there are only 3 other U.S. allies plus the U.S. that have those missiles and therefore could...
Look, again, as the president said yesterday, he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. The president has a right to share his opinions with the American public, but he has said he'll accept the conclusion of that investigation. And frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting out a lot of articles on this, making claims that have just not been verified by the Department of War, to quickly wrap up this investigation because the New York Times is calling on us to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karoline, with the DHS currently under a partial Democrat shutdown, does the administration have any specific concerns about potential impact on Homeland Security or intelligence monitoring of sleeper cells inside the United States? And do you have any comment on the bombing, the 2 individuals that bombed New York City or tried to?
Yeah, it was absolutely despicable to see that attack in New York City. I know the FBI is investigating, and the Department of Justice and SDNY have announced they are charging those 2 individuals and alleged terrorists, and I know they won't rest until justice is sought in this case. Daniel.
Thank you, Karoline. Appreciate it. Millions of Americans are filing taxes for the first time since the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. New reports say that new IRS data says that the average federal tax refund is around $3,800, a little bit up from the last period of last year. Does the president believe that the average federal tax refund increasing this year could provide a little bit more economic growth, something that he's been very focused on as the year progresses.
Absolutely. And Americans are going to start benefiting from the fruits of President Trump and Republicans' labor through the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill and these historic tax cuts. We are midway through tax season, so just to provide an update from the Treasury Department that just went out moments ago, nearly 63.5 million tax returns have been processed thus far, 45% of the anticipated total number of tax returns by April 15th, so don't forget to file your taxes, people. And the average refund this year is more than $3,700. And we know that more than 27.5 million individuals who have filed their tax returns thus far have claimed at least one of President Trump's new tax cuts. Over 3.5 million returns have claimed no tax on tips. Over 15.5 million returns have claimed no tax on overtime. Over 9.2 million returns have claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors. And over 690,000 returns have claimed no tax on car loan interest. And another amazing statistic, nearly 3.5 million Trump accounts have been opened for children in our country thus far. So we look forward to, I know the Treasury Department continues to look forward to seeing these checks go out the door and into the pockets of hardworking Americans, and the president will be meeting with them himself tomorrow on the road in both Ohio and Kentucky, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Karoline.
All right, so the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt just wrapping up that press conference this afternoon at the White House, speaking about a whole host of topics, as you just heard, including the importance of passing the Save America Act. Let's go over President Trump's schedule one more time, just in case you missed the beginning of the press conference. As Karoline said, that the president will visit a business in Ohio tomorrow and then go to Kentucky, of course, just to the south of Ohio, and deliver a speech in Kentucky. On Thursday, the Commander-in-Chief and the First Lady will host a Women's History Month event in the East Room of the White House. And on Friday, the 47th President will sign several executive orders. Stay with RSBN as we cover the news around the country and around the world. If you want to check out a hearing on our other stream right now, you can do that. For all of us at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again soon.